Every time I create a video or talk about narcissism, I always have people in the comments asking, wait, maybe I'm a narcissist. Today we're going to dig into, are you a narcissist? What are the traits, and how can you know if this is something you're struggling with? If you're new here and you'd like to subscribe, we would love to have you. I'm Katie Morton. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I talk about all things mental health related, whether it's narcissism, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, and everything in between. Hopefully you'll learn something new and have some helpful tips that you can apply to your life today. When it comes to narcissism, it's important to know that someone who is a narcissist has what's called narcissistic personality disorder. And I have an older video I will link below. I'll walk you through all the diagnostic criteria, because it's important to know that people can have narcissistic traits without having full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, just like the same way that I can have some symptoms of anxiety, let's say, without having a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder, right? We can have some of the traits, but not have the full-blown disorder. So today, I'm going to walk you through some of the most common traits of a narcissist, so you can see if any of it lines up with what you're going through, or maybe someone in your life is going through. And if you think any of these traits apply to you, it's really important to see a professional to get properly diagnosed. Don't think of this video as a way to diagnose or undiagnose yourself. It's really important that you see a professional get proper treatment. The first trait of someone who's a narcissist is superiority, and this pretty much means that they think that they do things better. They are better than everybody else around them. And if you happen to do something they don't approve of, or point out something in their life, let's say you walk into their house and you're like, oh, I think that could be a blue wall instead of that, they will burn it down. They can talk trash about you. They can tell other people about how bad you are. They can unleash rage on you, anything to kind of make you go away or look like discredit. You look less serious, so that they can continue upholding this facade of superiority. The next trait is entitlement, which I feel like rolls nicely off of superiority. But people with narcissistic tendencies will feel entitled to your respect whether or not they've earned it. They'll also feel entitled to an apology because you're completely in the wrong. They're not in the wrong at all. They feel entitled to maybe a raise or a better position or to your seat on a plane. Someone with narcissistic tendencies will feel this sense of entitlement throughout their entire lives. The third trait most common is need for attention. I'm going to reference my notes because I don't want to forget any of this. Weddings, other people's birthdays, any big successes for people that are in the narcissist's life will be incredibly difficult for them, and they will do anything they can to turn that attention onto them, because they can struggle to not be the full focus of a day or an event when someone who's a narcissist doesn't get the center of attention. They can pick a fight. They can talk over the person who's, let's say it's their birthday and they're going to give a toast. They're going to stand up at the same time and try to talk over them to get the attention back. They might put somebody down. They can start a fight with other people or cause some other kind of drama. Anything to shift the focus towards them and away from the person who's supposed to be the center of attention. The next trait that a narcissist can have is a need for control. And the reason for this intense need is because they want to keep this facade up, right, of being perfect and superior. And if they don't have full control, they can't do that. And so they'll use a lot of different forms of manipulation. One of those being gaslighting, right? You're not remembering it correctly. That's not what happened. Or love bombing. When they shower us with attention and affection, they can make it confusing. We can think, but they are a great person, and they do these things as a way to get us to do what they want. And if that doesn't work, then they bring in what a lot of people online call the flying monkeys, which is essentially people who participate in their smear campaigns. These will be a kind of what I would call casual people in their lives that haven't realized who they are yet, but they will listen to their side, agree with them, and then participate in shaming and blaming other people for the issue. And why do people do this? It's because people with narcissistic tendencies are really fragile, right? It's often born out of trauma. And so we put up this fake facade to kind of protect that like squishy inside part. And so if things aren't playing out the way that we want, it can feel out of control, and that can be scary, That could reveal that soft inside, right? And so we'll manipulate and try to control in order to keep up that facade, so that we feel safe and okay. Another important trait is a complete lack of boundaries again, because a narcissist is going to need a lot of control and wants to have everything just perfect. They'll struggle to see where we end and they begin, and this can happen a lot when our parent is a narcissist, and we're the child of them. They can feel like we are just an extension of them. We're not independent. Anything we do is representative or shows poorly or well on them. Right. And they'll want to get in on and turn the attention to them, and we have a success, and they'll want to disown us, call us disrespectful and all sorts of names when we do something they don't want. And so this lack of boundaries makes it really difficult to be in a relationship with a narcissist because again, there's no independence there. And if you try to uphold boundaries or put them into place, they will usually lash out, throw a tantrum, or at the very least, push back against them, and act like you never had that conversation with them in the first place. Another key trait is that they never take responsibility. Someone who is a narcissist is incapable of offering a true apology. If something doesn't go as planned, they're never going to take ownership over that. They're always looking outside of themselves for kind of scapegoats or other ways that they can blame and shame and displace any of the responsibility that they truly have. Because if they too admit that they did something wrong, that whole facade that I've been talking about will crumble to the ground. The next trait is lack of empathy. And this one is incredibly difficult for people to understand because it's hard for those of us with empathy to imagine someone without it. Empathy is the ability to feel for someone else. It's like, if you watch somebody trip and hurt themselves or drop their stuff on the sidewalk next to you, someone who has empathy would be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, let me help you." And they would assist because they can imagine what that would feel like. Or watch a TV show or the news segments, especially in the last 2 years. The news has been incredibly difficult. You can watch the news and cry because you can feel for those people. So someone with narcissistic tendencies or someone with narcissistic personality disorder doesn't feel like that they're actually incapable of feeling empathy or putting themselves in someone else's shoes. And instead what they do is they tend to assume or expect us to think and feel just like them. And when we don't, they can get really upset and lash out. And the final trait I'm going to talk about today, but I'm sure there are tons more filth to leave those in the comments. But this trait is splitting. Now, I've talked about splitting in relation to BPD, or borderline personality disorder. Splitting is when we believe people are all good or all bad. It's a very much like all or nothing black and white way of thinking. But this also happens in NPD or people with narcissistic traits. We can think that if someone does something that's just a slight, let's say someone pointed out something we didn't do well, and we are the one with the narcissistic tendencies. We can automatically assume that person is the worst. They don't belong in our life, they're not good enough. They should never have been around us, and we can shame and blame, or we can get other people in our life. Remember those flying monkeys? We can get them to shame and blame them to prove that we are better, and they're all bad. Or we can have people that we put on pedestals. Often newer people in a narcissist's life will be like these amazing people. They'll think that everything is great. Everything they do is amazing because again, no boundaries, right? They're so closely connected to us that if we think that person is successful, maybe they're like kind of a celebrity in some ways are very important in their work. Maybe the structure of their work or whatever, we can look to them in that connection and think, well, that's just because of me, right? And so I'm connected to that person so we can put them as all good or all bad. If you still wonder, am I a narcissist or is that person in my life a narcissist? Here are a quick few questions to help you maybe answer that. Number 1. Does the thought of being a narcissist make you feel bad for those around? You think about it? Yes or no? Number 2. Are you concerned about how others feel? Would it bother you if you knew that you upset someone? Number 3. Are you quick to apologize when you've hurt someone else's feelings? Number 4. Does too much attention make you nervous or anxious? If you answered yes to any of these, it's most likely that you are not a narcissist. I mean, think about what we just talked about. That means you show empathy, you apologize quickly, and you don't like attention. It's not likely. But here are a few more questions to consider if you're still having a tough time. Number 1. Do you see your friends or children as extensions of you? Like, are they representing you and living out your life? Number 2. Do you often think that other people aren't good enough to associate with you? Number 3. Do you struggle to apologize or often think that any disagreement, it's someone else's fault? And number 4. Do you struggle to see things from someone else's perspective, or is it hard to imagine how someone else might be feeling as a result of what just happened? Now, if you answered yes to any of these questions, it is possible that you might have some narcissistic tendencies. Again, it's really important that we see a professional and get properly assessed so that we can make sure that's what's going on. But those are some things that kind of line up with some of those traits overall. If you're watching this video and you are genuinely concerned as to whether you're a narcissist or not, chances are you're not. I find there's this incredible overlap with a lot of people who have a lot of empathy for others, and this concern about being a narcissist. And I think it's just because we feel so much, and we hear things that might kind of resonate. We're like, maybe that is me, oh my God. But you have to remember, a narcissist can't put themselves in someone else's shoes. They don't have empathy. They're not concerned about how other people feel. They wouldn't be worried about being a narcissist, honestly. If you told them they were, they'd probably just blame you for it and say you're remembering things differently. So just kind of consider some of those traits and symptoms. Maybe rewind back and watch them through again because chances are you're not. But I hope this was helpful and assuaged any fears or concerns you had about this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.